I would like to be able to tell y'all that this is the last time y'all are going to have to hear from me preaching about the Second Amendment and about how foolish I think anti-gunners are. But honestly, it's probably not going to be, so just bear with me on this. Every time somebody stands up on social media or in front of a state or federal office and starts preaching about gun control, I feel obligated as a Second Amendment advocate to preach my words and to speak out against it, because frankly I think they're wrong. But I thought we'd clear up a few misconceptions. See, it's come out recently that the Parkland shooting, the shooting that happened at the Florida high school, the shooter didn't use high-capacity magazines. Yet we still see politicians and anti-gun groups screeching and yelling that we need to ban them. Things like this. This is a 30-round magazine for my AK. This is my AK. What frustrates me so badly is that, I've said it before that there's just no rationality in place in the gun control argument. Because this wasn't used in that shooting, yet this is the thing they're screaming about banning. This is an AK-47, or it's an AKM. It's functionally not that different from an AR-15. It loads from detachable box magazines. It's semi-automatic. It's not an assault rifle. This is not a select fire, fully automatic burst fire weapon. This is semi-automatic only. My wife has a Remington 74 Sporter, which is a semi-automatic hunting rifle back in the safe, and it's not, based on its description, that different from this. It feeds from detachable box magazines, just like this does. It is semi-automatic, just like this is. The principal differences are, A, it looks like a hunting rifle, so nobody wants to ban it, and it shoots 30-06, which, this is going to be an interesting point of comparison for y'all. These are dummy cartridges for the round that's fired at my AK, which is 7.62 by 49, or by 39, and this is a dummy cartridge for 30-06. This one over here that my wife's hunting rifle shoots is substantially more powerful than the round that my AK shoots. But this is the round that everybody's telling you is so deadly, despite the fact that this has dramatically more velocity, more power, more muzzle energy, more range. This is the one that's the more powerful round. This is the one they tell you is the dangerous one. The two firearms I'm discussing look completely different. They operate on a very similar mechanism. They both feed from detachable box magazines. So the idea that we have to ban a semi-automatic rifle that feeds from box magazines is just ridiculous to me. Because you're saying you want to ban my wife's hunting rifle in the same context you want to ban this thing. I don't get it. I really don't. I've heard arguments that we don't need assault rifles. And I hate to use that term, but it's the one y'all want to use, the anti-gunner, so I'm going to use the same one. So you at least are using the same verbiage. We don't need these things. They serve no practical purpose. The only purpose these things serve is to kill people, according to y'all. But let me point out something. This has never killed a single person since I've owned it. I can't speak to before I owned it, but I would go out on a limb and assume with the number of these things that are in civilian hands and the small number of shootings involving assault rifles relative to the number that are in civilian hands, I'd venture to say that most of these weapons haven't been used to harm somebody. I use this for target shooting. I use this for plinking. You could go to 3-gun competitions and use this in that capacity. This is one of my home defense weapons because, let's face it, if my option to deal with a home intruder is either a 9mm handgun, which this is my carry gun, and this is a 14-round magazine shooting 9mm parabellum, but if I have the option of having 14 of these little things or 30 of these to defend my wife and my child and my home and my property and my life, this is what I want to bring to a fight. It's more powerful than a handgun. This shouldn't be rocket surgery here. The bullet weight is about the same, but this has a lot more powder and a lot more velocity. But again, this little guy and this are responsible for dramatically more instances of gun violence, in air quotes, shootings every year than this is. Gang members do not typically carry around AKs and ARs because you cannot conceal this thing walking down the street. I just pulled this out from underneath my shirt. I have a stated to conceal weapons permit, by the way, something that I'm going to go on a limb and assume most felons don't have because they can't get them. See, in order to do this legally, I had to submit myself to a background check, not the gun show loophole background check, but I had to send all my information to a state office and let them rip apart my personal life for the last God knows how long, back to when I was 18 years old. It took them about 3 months to do. And in those 3 months, they concluded I was not likely to harm anybody, hence they gave me a permit to carry this 9mm handgun around underneath my shirt pretty much everywhere I feel the urge to. I can't go into a church, a police station, or a government office. That's about where the list ends. And this thing is responsible for a lot more shootings than this is. But what are we screaming and yelling about? We're talking about high capacity magazines. We're talking about assault weapons. These are not the thing responsible for the majority of the gun violence statistic in this country. Handguns are. Handguns in the hands of felons who shouldn't have them to begin with. Handguns illegally concealed flagrantly in violation of the state laws. So if this thing and this little thing are responsible for the majority of the gun violence, why are we talking about banning these and this? That's my answer to gun grabbers, to anti-gun people. What are we talking about here? Why are we having this discussion? Be honest about it. This is not a problem. Because even if the statistics went the other direction and this is responsible for the majority of the shootings, this particular rifle is not, and I am not. So why are my rights being restricted? If someone is marching up and down the street shouting white power slogans all over the place, does that now mean that everybody's freedom of speech has to be curtailed because that one person abused that right? Or do we deal with that one person? Let's lay the blame at the feet of the people who are committing these crimes and stop trying to punish every other law-abiding gun owner in this country for this thing. Because I can tell you why I need this thing. I need this because I determined that this was a more effective tool to defend my family, and I have a right to defend my life and my family's life with this. If I misuse it or abuse it, then I will face the legal ramifications of that decision. But it is incredibly immoral, in my opinion, to blame a person or hold them accountable for actions they did not commit. And that's what this is really going to come down to. This is a moral issue. I have a moral right and a constitutional right and a God-given right to defend my life as I see fit. And if I want to use a scary black rifle with green furniture on it and a high-capacity magazine, that's my business. If you want to call the cops and hope and pray, that's your business. Don't hold me and people like me accountable for the sins committed by another person. Don't restrict our freedoms because you don't want to face the real issue. There are evil people in this world. There have been since the dawn of human time. There always will be. But the difference between me and the person who shot that place up in Florida is this thing is my tool I choose to use to defend my life and other people's lives. And were I standing in those school hallways at that moment with that handgun, that shooter would have had to come through me to harm those children. Not because I'm a police officer, not because I'm living out some police or some military fantasy, even though I am prior service military, but because I am a good, moral person and I feel a human imperative to defend other people. I feel that need to defend other people even at the expense of my own life if that's what it comes to. But this thing is not permitted in those school hallways. So your laws are doing nothing to restrain the person who commits these evil acts. They are only restraining people like me who want to protect human life. And because I have an assault weapon doesn't mean I don't value human life. It just means that I accept that people in this world suck, and sometimes you have to deal with them. You have to administer a little bit of violence in order to curb their behavior. So hopefully this will be the last time you hear from me about assault weapon bans and 30-round magazines and all this nonsense. I doubt it. But I'm just going to put this out there yet again. We are not the problem. I would hope, I know how these things work and how social media works. The majority of you out there listening to me right now, you are probably on my side about this. But you could help me out by sharing this with the people who aren't on my side, so that we can put a little bit of rational thought into their lives and maybe make a few of them think twice. Because this thing is not an indication of my intent to harm people. This is the tool I use to defend my life and my family's life, and I have a right to do so. But come catch the podcast, come check out our blog. All the links are in the description, and I hope you all subscribe and leave some feedback. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker here, but I tend to think that a gun, regardless of what the gun is in the hands of a good person looking to defend life, is a good pushback to a gun in the hands of an evil person who will do evil with it, who wasn't concerned about your laws in the first place. Because the same law he broke that said he couldn't have that gun said he couldn't kill that person or take that gun where he took it. The law is not restraining these people. But this thing in my hands does.